The morning sun was barely touching the rooftops of Cedar Falls, a quiet American town where time moved a little slower and folks still said good morning to strangers. At the corner gas station, the smell of coffee mixed with gasoline and rain-soaked pavement. Inside, an old man named Frank Bennett, wearing his usual flannel jacket, stood patiently in line. In his wrinkled hands, a small, crumpled lottery ticket, the kind of thing most people would toss in a drawer and forget about. When he reached the counter, the young clerk, Jenny, smiled. "Morning, Frank. Trying your luck again." Frank grinned, eyes twinkling beneath his cap. "Well, Jenny, I've been trying for 70 years. Maybe the odds..." "Owe me a favor." Jenny chuckled and ran the ticket through the scanner. The machine beeped once. Then it beeped again. She frowned, then gasped softly. "Frank, do you know what this means?" He shook his head. She whispered, "You just won $75,000. The room went silent. The man behind Frank lowered his coffee cup mid. Even the humming of the old fridge seemed to stop. Frank blinked, confused. 75,000. Jenny nodded. "You hit 5 numbers. You're a lucky man." But instead of cheering, Frank went quiet. His smile faded, his brows furrowed. Finally, he said, almost to himself, "Well, the thing is, Jenny, this ticket isn't mine." Jenny froze. "What do you mean? It's not yours?" Frank sighed, looking down at the faded paper. "I found it last night, right there on that counter. Someone must have dropped it." Jenny's mouth fell open. "Frank, you found it. You could just cash it in. No one would ever know." Frank looked at her, calm but firm. "Maybe not, but I'd know. And that's enough." She hesitated. "Do you remember who dropped it?" He nodded slowly. "Tall fella. Plaid jacket. Wore a gray cap. Paid for coffee. Looked like the world had fallen on him." Jenny thought for a moment. Then she said quietly, "That's Joe Miller. He lives 2 blocks down. Lost his job last month. Wife's been sick." Frank's eyes softened. "Then I think I ought to pay Joe a visit." He folded the ticket carefully, slipped it into his pocket, and left the store. As he walked through town, people waved at him like they always did, not knowing that the man walking past them could have been rich by evening. But Frank didn't feel poor. He felt right. By the time he reached Joe Miller's worn-down porch, the afternoon sun was low. He knocked. The door creaked open. Joe looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, voice dry. "Frank, what brings you there?" Frank smiled gently. "I think he left something behind at the station yesterday." He handed him the ticket. Joe frowned. "I don't play the lottery." Frank chuckled. "You did yesterday. You left this on the counter." Joe's eyes widened as he looked at the numbers, then at Frank. This can't be real." Frank said softly, "It is, and it's yours." Joe's hands trembled. He tried to speak, but his voice broke. I don't know what to say, Frank." Just patted his shoulder. "You don't have to say anything, son. Just take care of your family." That night, Frank sat by his window, sipping tea while the old clock ticked on the mantel. He didn't tell anyone what happened. Didn't post it on Facebook. Didn't call the news. But somehow, word spread. By morning, people in Cedar Falls were whispering. The old man gave away $75,000. Must have lost his mind. Others said, "No, that's just Frank being Frank." When Jenny saw him again, she asked, "You don't regret it?" Frank smiled. "Regret doing the right thing? Never." A week later, Frank opened his mailbox. Inside was an envelope with his name written in neat handwriting. He opened it. Inside, there was a folded note and a check. The note read, "Frank, you gave me more than money. You gave me back my faith in people. I'll never forget that. And beneath the note, a $10,000 check. Frank laughed softly. He didn't need the money. He'd lived most of his life on small pensions and big gratitude. But that letter, that moment, it made him feel 10 feet tall. He placed the note beside his wife's old photograph and whispered, "You'd have told me to do the same, wouldn't you, Mary?" Outside, the wind moved through the maple trees, carrying the smell of rain and something rare, contentment. A month passed. Joe Miller got a new job. His wife's health improved, and sometimes he'd drop by with a pie or a cup of coffee. He'd always say the same thing. "I still can't believe you did that, Frank." And Frank would just smile. "You don't need to. Just pass it on someday." Because in a town like Cedar Falls, kindness travels fast. When people talk about wealth, they think of cars, houses, and numbers on a screen. But Frank, he knew something different, that sometimes the richest man in town is the one who goes to bed with a quiet heart. And maybe that's what real luck looks like. If stories like this remind you what still matters, hit that subscribe button and stay with us, because there are still people out there who prove that honesty and kindness never go out of style.